Hello, 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 my dear fishies, and welcome back to another story time. I hope you've been well. Hello, Gam. Hello, Milo. Hello, Pro Self Love. Hello, ASMR Mans. Hello, Harukin. Hello, Dova. Thank you for joining on YouTube. Hello, Pose. It is good to see you. Hello, dogs. Welcome. Let me go ahead and get a couple of different things ready for us today. It feels like forever since I've heard your voice. It's really good to be here today. It's really good to have you. It really has been a while, hasn't it? Well, well, well. Look what we have here. Just a bunch of fishies looking super cute. Let's see. ASMRs.
That's what we've been waiting for! It's what we wanted all along!
Hi, Nightcall. Thank you again so much for boosting the Discord server. Congratulations to Gam on being the first into stream today, redeeming first in chat. Hey, North Giant, welcome. I think the camera needs to be a little closer. Also, if you would like to join the puzzle, !puzzle. Technically you were first, but yeah, just saying. I mean, some people say, oh, they were first in chat, and other people redeem first, so. How are you guys today? How are you, Pro Self Love? I'm gonna make a minor adjustment to my camera. I need to figure out which button it is first.
I love you. I love you.
Aww. I love you too. Thank you. I don't like how much of an angle I'm sitting at. Oh no. Uh-oh. You moved the camera. I don't like how I'm angled. And I want to see if I can fix this. Let's see. There. I think that's a little bit better. Right? then for this camera view, let's see. I know how much chat really wants the fishies in the background. It's a struggle to provide that camera view while also giving you a view of everything else in the 3D space, you know? What are your thighs? What are my thighs? My thighs are just fine. But we've got those camera angles, and then we've got these camera angles. Anyway, you guys are here for the Frankenstein reading, most likely, anyway, right? Yes, there is a new puzzle, so you guys can always check what the new puzzle is if you click on the puzzle link. Let's see, I gotta press this button. Hi, Optimus Prime. Another amazing day. Well, I'm glad it's another amazing day. Hi, Dova. Thank you for the kissies. All right, let me pull up Frankenstein. A couple of announcements for you before I get started. Let's see. So for this week and for the rest of the year, my stream times will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday and Friday streams will be 6 p.m. Saturday streams will be 3 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. So that is effective now all the way to the end of the year. Also, second announcement, we've finally reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you so much for helping make this happen. I am so excited. We unlocked ad revenue, which is just a goal, right? But it is great to see that we are growing the YouTube community. And there's a couple of things coming up in the next few weeks that I'm really looking forward to. Both vacations and some special family events happening, but also some stream related things as well. You can expect some YouTube videos to be coming out, some videos coming out to Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Again, if I am not here on stream to hang out and talk to you, please join the Discord server. We're doing quite a few changes in this server right now. So just bear with me if something is not operating the way that it should. Just let myself or one of the mods know, hey, is this supposed to be doing that? That is perfectly fine. I'm trying to catch up on YouTube videos. At least I'm not posting them as often as I used to, because we are kind of addressing YouTube strategy. Apparently, I was posting too often for YouTube. It wasn't pushing out my content. I didn't know that. And now I will be posting less frequently, but YouTube will actually be helping me by pushing out my content. So in the next few weeks, you are going to see some videos being put out. If you were not here for the Lightning Thief audiobook, essentially, the book reading for the Lightning Thief will be coming out. I promise it is happening. It's just taking a little bit longer for that to get out than it previously has, because I've had to do a lot of editing with it. By the way, we don't talk about the beautiful GIFs I posted. We don't talk about it. Okay. Good talk. Yes, it's me, Chris. Hi. Thank you for joining. Hi, Billingham, and hi, Riley. Welcome back. It's good to see you again. Hey, if you're not already in the Discord server, I highly recommend joining the Discord server, because I've got a lot of stream schedule stuff changing, and I want you to be in the know. So if you aren't already, highly recommend you joining. And thank you for the gifts. Thank you, thank you. Late night, so I'm like half asleep. Wow. Let's make that a full asleep. You low-key remind me of Shinobu from Demon Slayer. I don't know anything about Demon Slayer. Although, I know it's popular. That's about it. Thank you for joining the Discord. Again, if something doesn't work, just let me know, and I will try to fix it. Hi, Mimi. Welcome. Okay. Put a 1 in chat if you are ready for me to continue reading Frankenstein. We will be resuming from chapter 3. So far in the book, what has happened is a narrator was a brother who was writing letters to his sister and found this strange man in the Arctic who was chasing after somebody. And the narrator became friends with this strange person, and the entirety of the book is now this strange person giving their life story. Hi, Baifu. Are you ready for the reading? You're ready for the reading? How does your voice sound so nice? It's crystal clear. I don't know. Riley, thank you so much for the 34 roses. I appreciate you so much, and I hope that you've had a very good week. Did I miss you? Yes. Yes, of course I did. I miss my fishies when I'm not live. But trust me when I say that by streaming less often, it's only 2 days, but by streaming less often, I will have more dedicated time to improve the behind the scenes work. So there will hopefully be more social media videos going out and more YouTube videos going out. But I digress. Let's continue reading. Higher quality over higher quantity. I like your shirt. Thank you. You know what? Maybe I should get some merch that is designed to look kind of like this. Can I be a good boy? Yes. Yes, you can. Thank you, Harukin, for redeeming an uwu. Uwu? There you go. I feel like that was very good, uwu. All right. Let's get to reading.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Chapter 3. When I had attained the age of 17, my parents resolved that I should become a student at the University of Ingolstadt. I had hitherto attended the schools of Geneva, but my father thought it unnecessary for the completion of my education that I should be made acquainted with other customs than those of my native country. My departure was therefore fixed at an early date, but before the day resolved upon could arrive, the first misfortune of my life occurred, an omen, as it were, of my misery. Elizabeth had caught the scarlet fever. Her illness was severe, and she was in the greatest danger. During her illness, many arguments had urged to persuade my mother to refrain from attending upon her. She had at first yielded to our entreaties, but when she heard that the life of her favorite was menaced, she could no longer control her anxiety. She attended her sickbed. Her watchful attentions triumphed over the malignity of the distemper. Elizabeth was saved, but the consequence of this imprudence were fatal to her preserver. On the 3rd day my mother sickened. Her fever was accompanied by the most alarming symptoms, and the looks of her medical attendants prognosticated the worst event. On her deathbed, the fortitude and benignity of this best of women did not desert her. She joined the hands of Elizabeth and myself. "My children," she said, "my firmest hopes of future happiness were placed on the prospect of your union. This expectation will now be the consolation of your father. Elizabeth, my love, you must supply my place to my younger children. Alas, I regret that I am taken from you, and happy and beloved as I have been, is it not hard to quit you all? But these are not thoughts befitting me. I will endeavor to resign myself cheerfully to death, and will indulge a hope of meeting you in another world." She died calmly, and her countenance expressed affection even in death. I need not describe the feelings of those whose dearest ties are rent by that most irreparable evil, the void that presents itself to the soul, and the despair that is exhibited on the countenance. It is so long before the mind can persuade itself that she whom we saw every day, and whose very existence appeared a part of our own, can have departed forever. That the brightness of a beloved eye can have been extinguished, and the sound of a voice so familiar and dear to the ear can be hushed, nevermore to be heard. These are the reflections of the first days, and when the lapse of time proves the reality of the evil, when the bitterness, the actual bitterness of grief commences. Yet from whom has not that rude hand rent away some dear connection? And why should I describe a sorrow which we all have felt and must feel? The time at length arrives when grief is rather an indulgence than a necessity, and the smile that plays upon the lips, although it may be deemed a sacrilege, is not banished. My mother was dead, but we had still duties which we ought to perform. We must continue our course with the rest, and learn to think ourselves fortunate whilst one remains whom the spoiler has not seized. My departure for Ingolstadt, which had been deferred by these events, was now again determined upon. I obtained from my father a respite of some weeks. It appeared to me sacrilege so soon to leave the repose, akin to death, of the house of mourning and to rush into the thick of life. I was new to sorrow, but it did not the less alarm me. I was unwilling to quit the sight of those that remained to me, and above all, I desired to see my sweet Elizabeth in some degree consoled. She indeed veiled her grief and strove to act the comforter to us all. She looked steadily on life and assumed its duties with courage and zeal. She devoted herself to those whom she had been taught to call her uncle and cousins. Never was she so enchanting as at this time, when she called the sunshine of her smiles and spent them upon us. She forgot even her own regret in her endeavors to make us forget. The day of my departure at length arrived. Clerval spent the last evening with us. He had endeavored to persuade his father to permit him to accompany me and to become my fellow student, but in vain. His father was a narrow-minded traitor, and saw idleness and ruin in the aspirations and ambition of his son. Henry deeply felt the misfortune of being debarred from a liberal education. He said little, but when he spoke, I read in his kindling eye and his animated glance a restrained but firm resolve not to be chained to the miserable details of commerce. We sat late. We could not tear ourselves away from each other, nor persuade ourselves to say the word farewell. It was said, and we retired under the pretense of seeking repose, each fancying that the other was deceived But when at morning's dawn I descended to the carriage, which was to convey me away, they were all there. My father again to bless me, Clerval to press my hand once more, and Elizabeth to renew her entreaties that I would write often and to bestow the last of feminine attentions on her playmate and friend. I threw myself into the chase that was to convey me away and indulged in the most melancholy reflections. I, who had ever been surrounded by amiable companions, continually engaged in endeavoring to bestow mutual pleasure, I was now alone. In the university whither I was going, I must form my own friends and be my own protector. My life had hitherto been remarkably secluded and domestic, and this had given me invincible repugnance to new countenances. I loved my brothers, Elizabeth and Clerval. These were old familiar faces. Such were my reflections as I commenced my journey. But as I proceeded, my spirits and hopes rose. I ardently desired the acquisition of knowledge. I had often, when at home, thought it hard to remain during my youth cooped up in one place, and had longed to enter the world and take my station among other human beings. Now my desires were complied with. It would, indeed, have been folly to repent. I had sufficient leisure for these and many other reflections during my journey to Ingolstadt, which was long and fatiguing. At length, the high, white steeple of the town met my eyes. I alighted and was conducted to my solitary apartment to spend the evening as I pleased. The next morning, I delivered my letters of introduction and paid a visit to some of the principal professors. Chance, or rather the evil influence, the angel of destruction, which asserted omnipotent sway over me from the moment I turned my reluctant steps from my father's door, led me first to M. Kremp, professor of natural philosophy. He was an uncouth man, but deeply imbued in the secrets of his science. He asked me several questions concerning my progress in the different branches of science appertaining to natural philosophy. I replied carelessly, and partly in contempt, mentioned the names of my alchemists as the principal authors I studied. The professor stared. "Have you," he said, "really spent your time in studying such nonsense?" I replied in the affirmative. "Every minute," continued M. Kremp with warmth. "Every instant that you have wasted on those books is utterly and entirely lost. You have burdened your memory with exploded systems and useless names. Good God! In what desert land have you lived where no one was kind enough to inform you that these fancies, which you have so greedily imbibed, are 1,000 years old and as musty as they are ancient? I expected, in this enlightened and scientific age, to find a disciple of Albertus Magnus and Heraclesis. My dear sir, you must begin your studies entirely anew. So saying, he steps aside and wrote down a list of several books treating of natural philosophy which he desired me to procure, and dismissed me after mentioning that in the beginning of the following week he intended to commence a course of lectures upon natural philosophy and its general relations, and that M. Waldman, a fellow professor, would lecture upon chemistry, the alternate days he omitted. I returned home, not disappointed, for I have said that I had long considered those authors useless whom the professor reprobated. But I returned not at all the more inclined to recur these studies in any shape. M. Creme. I keep messing up. I'm sorry, I'm getting really frustrated that I keep messing up. Hi City, hi Polish, hi Hubert, hi Moyodongon, hi Thumbert. Big yawn.
I love you.
I love you too, City. Thank you. I enjoy it. I don't mind it at all. Really? Also, Ruben, thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you for the roses and the heart puff. I appreciate it. Maybe, chat, we just need to take a big stretch, okay? Okay. You seem very tired. I don't feel tired. It's just, I guess my brain may not be prepared to read. Thank you for the stretch. Redeem. Also, a reminder to my dearest puzzlers to let me know when you finish with a puzzle so I may give you a new puzzle. Okay? Double checking. We get puzzles too. If you check out the link in my profile, it will take you to a page, and one of the buttons on that page says puzzles. As I read, I have puzzles set up for the community. So you guys get to solve a puzzle while I do the reading. I'm not sure if you can listen to the live stream on TikTok and do a puzzle. Why are you so far away? How about now? Oh, you can? Cool. I'm glad. All right. I will continue reading and I will keep doing my best. I am also going to double check some settings because I feel like these are off. Welcome to all of our new fishies. Watching the live on PC is completely different. Yes, I highly recommend, if you can, watch the stream on a desktop or horizontally. It's a much better experience. Here, I'll zoom out so you can see the environment. You don't normally get to see all of the environment if you're just watching vertically. So, yeah, highly recommend. Yes, we do have a bunch of fishies. That's usually everyone's favorite part. Do I play VR chat? No, I don't. I would certainly like to get this model ported into VR chat. I don't regularly play VR chat, but I have played VR chat. I wish that I knew how to get this model ported into VR chat with like all the animations and the fizz bones and the vismes and all of that, because then I could do VR chat community like book reading sessions where like I can sit in front of you guys like here. Well, in this room in this room, imagine if I had a book and I was just sitting here reading my book and all you guys could sit in front of me like we're back in kindergarten. I think that that's kind of cute. So I would love to, but I don't. It seems high quality. It is a Vroid model, but it is a customized Vroid model. And there were some very minor tweaks made in Blender. It wouldn't be hard. It's just time consuming and I don't have the time for it. So I'm trying to find someone that I can I don't have an FBX file. It's a .vrm. But I'm looking for someone that I could just pay to like take the VRM, put all of the fizz bones and all of that. We'll have to talk about this off stream though. If you guys join the Discord server, you can tag me. Yes, we talked about it night call. Hey, reel it. I work on model. Okay. Yes. Let's get back to reading. I'm dying to see where the story of the book goes.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too, Dova. I need to double check something with my microphone because I feel like it's compressing me. It's compressing my audio. What is it though, Frankenstein? Yes, it is Frankenstein. Okay.
That's what we've been waiting for! It's what
That's
we
what we
wanted all
wanted
along!
along. Yeah, thank you for that. I never got around to read it. It was required reading when I was in school. I don't remember much from it. I returned home not disappointed, for I have said that I had long considered those authors useless whom the professor reprobated. But I returned not at all the more inclined to recur to these studies in any shape. M. Kremp was a little squat man with a gruff voice and a repulsive countenance. The teacher, therefore, did not prepossess me in favor of his pursuits, in rather a too philosophical and connected a strain, perhaps. I have given an account of the conclusions I had come to concerning them in my earlier years. As a child, I had not been content with the results promised by the modern professors of natural science, with the confusion of ideas only to be accounted for by my extreme youth and my want of a guide on such matters. I had retrod the steps of knowledge along the paths of time and exchanged the discoveries of recent inquirers for the dreams of forgotten alchemists. Besides, I had a contempt for the uses of modern natural philosophy. It was very different when the masters of the science sought immortality and power. Such views, although futile, were grand. But now the scene was changed. The ambitions of the inquirer seemed to limit itself to the annihilation of those visions on which my interest in science was chiefly founded. I was required to exchange chimeras of boundless grandeur for realities of little worth. Such were my reflections during the first 2 or 3 days of my residence at Ingolstadt, which were chiefly spent in becoming acquainted with the localities and the principal residents in my new abode. But as the ensuing week commenced, I thought of the information which M. Kremp had given me concerning the lectures, and although I could not consent to go and hear that little conceited fellow deliver sentences out of a pulpit, I recollected what he had said of M. Waldman, whom I had never seen, as he had hitherto been out of town. Partly from my curiosity, and partly from idleness, I went into the lecturing room, which M. Waldman entered shortly after. This professor was very unlike his colleague. He appeared about 50 years of age, but with an aspect expressive of the greatest benevolence. A few gray hairs covered his temples, but those at the back of his head were nearly black. His person was short, but remarkably erect, and his voice the sweetest I had ever heard. He began his lecture by recapitulating. He began his lectures by a recapitulation. Okay, whatever. He began his lectures by a recapitulation of the history of chemistry and the various improvements made by different men of learning, pronouncing with fervor the names of the most distinguished discoverers. He then took a cursory view of the present state of the science and explained many of its elementary terms. After having made a few preparatory experiments, he concluded with a panegyric upon modern chemistry, the terms of which I shall never forget. "The ancient teachers of this science," said he, "promised impossibilities and performed nothing. The modern masters promise very little. They know that metals cannot be transmuted, and that the elixir of life is a chimera. But these philosophers, whose hands seem only made to dabble in dirt, and their eyes to pore over the microscope or crucible, have indeed performed miracles. They penetrate into the recesses of nature and show how she works in her hiding places. They ascend into the heavens. They have discovered how the blood circulates and the nature of the air we breathe. They have acquired new and almost unlimited powers. They can command the thunders of heaven, mimic the earthquake, and even mock the invisible world with its own shadows." Such were the professor's words. Rather, let me say such the words of the fate announced to destroy me. As he went on, I felt as if my soul were grappling with a palpable enemy. One by one, the various keys were touched which formed the mechanism of my being. Chord after chord was sounded, and soon my mind was filled with one thought, one conception, one purpose. "So much has been done," exclaimed the soul of Frankenstein. "More, far more, will I achieve. Treading in the steps already marked, I will pioneer a new way, explore unknown powers, and unfold to the world the deepest mysteries of creation." I closed not my eyes that night. My internal being was in a state of insurrection and turmoil. I felt that order would thence arise, but I had no power to produce it. By degrees, after the morning's dawn, sleep came. I awoke, and my yesternight's thoughts were as a dream. There only remained a resolution to return to my ancient studies and to devote myself to a science for which I believed myself to possess a natural talent. On the same day, I paid M. Waldman a visit. His manners in private were even more mild and attractive than in public, for there was a certain dignity in his mien during his lecture which in his own house was replaced by the greatest affability and kindness. I gave him pretty nearly the same account of my former pursuits as I had given to his fellow professor. He heard with attention the little narration concerning my studies and smiled at the names of Cornelius Agrippa and Paracelsus, but without the contempt that M. Krempe had exhibited. He said that these were men to whom indefatigable zeal modern philosophers were indebted for most of the foundations of their knowledge. They had left to us an easier task to give new names and arrange in connected classifications the facts which they in a great degree had been the instruments of bringing to light. The labors of men of genius, however erroneously directed, scarcely ever fail in ultimately turning to the solid advantage of mankind. I listened to his statement, which was delivered without any presumption or affectation, and then added that his lecture had removed my prejudices against modern chemists. I expressed myself in measured terms, with the modesty and deference due from a youth to his instructor, without letting escape an experience in life would have made me shamed. Any of the enthusiasm which stimulated my intended labors. I requested his advice concerning the books I ought to procure. "I am happy," said M. Walden. Said, fucking, I just, oh my god. "I will give you a new puzzle. I am ashamed that my brain is not functioning. Kitter, thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you so much for the pumpkin latte. And Zay, thank you so much for the heart." Thank you and welcome. I'm going to line up some more puzzles for you guys. Thank you, Ruben. That's a huge compliment, because it truly is intended to be a very calm and relaxing and enjoyable space. Okay, I have given you a new puzzle. And I feel like when visiting my grandma when I was a kid, she had puzzles and other games, and she also used to read to me. Oh, that's so sweet. Yes, that is exactly the kind of nostalgia that I want you to feel. Hi, Khalil. Yes, thank you. We did it. We reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yes, also these words on these words in this book are difficult. Thank you, Khalil, for your support, for helping me get to this point. I think I will become a regular. I highly recommend joining the Discord server so you get notified whenever I start stream or when I have announcements. And it's perfectly fine if you mute the server. That's totally allowed. A kitty puzzle? Yeah. Yes, we did. You guys finished the kitty puzzle. And now she just nyad. Yeah. Reminds me I should be more active in the Discord server. My favorite way of being active in the Discord server is just simply saying good morning. Whenever you wake up or whenever you go to sleep. If you think about it, our stream is about helping people go to sleep, so it makes sense. Okay, I will continue reading. I am happy, said M. Waldman, to have gained a disciple. And if your application equals your ability, I have no doubt of your success. Chemistry is that branch of natural philosophy in which the greatest improvements have been and may be made. It is on that account that I have made it my peculiar study, but at the same time, I have not neglected the other branches of science. A man would make but a very sorry chemist if he attended to that department of human knowledge alone. If your wish is to become really a man of science and not merely a petty experimentalist, I should advise you to apply to every branch of natural philosophy, including mathematics. He then took me into his laboratory and explained to me the uses of his various machines, instructing me as to what I ought to procure, and promising me the use of his own when I should have advanced far enough in the science not to derange their mechanism. He also gave me a list of books which I had requested, and I took my leave. Thus ended a day memorable to me. It decided my future destiny. Chapter 4. From this day, natural philosophy, and particularly chemistry, in the most comprehensive sense of the term, became nearly my sole occupation. I read with ardor these words, so full of genius and discrimination, which modern inquirers have written on the subjects. I attended the lectures and cultivated the acquaintance of the men of science of the university, and I found even in M. Kremp a great deal of sound sense and real information, combined, it is true, with a repulsive physiognomy and manners, but not on that account the less valuable. In M. Waldman, I found a true friend. His gentleness was never tinged by dogmatism, and his instructions were given with an air of frankness and good nature that banished every idea of pedantry. In 1,000 ways he smoothed for me the path of knowledge and made the most abstruse inquiries clear and facile to my apprehension. There is a fly in here, and I'm going to lose my shit. Wow, if you've never witnessed a StephTsu crash out live on Twitch, let's hope today is not that day. I just want to read. Why must I be bothered by a fly? Hi, Francis. How are you? Why does this book have to use so many big words? I don't want big words.
Oh, it's getting good.
Oh, it's getting good. Big girl book, I guess? I guess I'm not a big girl. It's from the 18th century. But my brain cells are not. My brain cells are not equipped for this. Come on, fly. I need you to, like, land somewhere that I can kill you. It's too fast. Where'd you go? Text me words. I'll reply with sounds. Crash out on live. What a treat. Yeah. I'm so focused on the puzzle. You're doing a great job. Someone has to be focused on the puzzle. Obviously can't be me. Laboratory. Do I need to read this book with an accent in order to, like, have a decent time? Not a decent time. Understand what I'm doing? Like, abstruse? I'm sorry. Huh? Here, let me just... The abstruse. There you go. Abstruse. Uh-huh. And then where was the other one? At least I know dogmatism. Don't ask me what it means. Is this one physiognomy? Read it to your liking. That's, at this point, kind of physio what exactly? Physiognomy. But there's a G. Is my G silent? Abstruse? Like strudel. I like strudel. Can I have some strudel? Hello, Will. Welcome. I guess I just continue reading. Physiognomy? Who's on me? At least I hope I'm saying, you know, Cornelius Agrippa right. He's got a Agrippa on reality. Ah! I hate it. It's okay. I'm judging myself. You don't need to judge me. I judge myself. Abstruse. The most abstruse inquiries. In 1,000 ways, he smoothed for me the path of knowledge and made the most abstruse inquiries clear and facile to my apprehension. My application was at first fluctuating and uncertain.
it gained strength as I proceeded and soon became so ardent and eager that the stars often disappeared in the night of morning, whilst I was yet engaged in my laboratory. As I applied so closely, it may be easily conceived that my progress was rapid. My ardor was indeed the astonishment of the students, and my proficiency that of the masters. Professor Kremp often asked me with a sly smile how Cornelius Agrippa went on, whilst M. Waldman expressed the most heartfelt exultation in my progress. 2 years passed in this manner, during which I paid no visit to Geneva, but was engaged, heart and soul, in the pursuit of some discoveries which I hoped to make. None but those who have experienced them can conceive the enticements of science. In other studies you go as far as others have gone before you, but there is nothing more to know. But in a scientific pursuit there is continual food for discovery and wonder. A mind of moderate capacity, which closely pursues one study, must infallibly arrive at great proficiency in that study. And I, who continually sought the attainment of one object of pursuit, was solely wrapped up in this, improved so rapidly that at the end of 2 years I made some discoveries in the improvement of some chemical instruments which procured me great esteem and admiration at the university. When I had arrived at this point, and had become as well acquainted with the theory and practice of natural philosophy as depended on the lessons of any of the professors at Ingolstadt, my residence there being no longer conducive to my improvements, I thought of returning to my friends in native town, when an incident happened that protracted my stay. One of the phenomena which had peculiarly attracted my attention was the structure of the human frame, and, indeed, fly! 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 Die! Die! Did I get it? Did I get it? I tried. I'm so sorry. No, I didn't kill it! Damn it. It survived. I guess that's my payment for being surrounded by foam. Sound foam. I will get you. I will get you, motherfucker. You just count your days. Ooh. All you gotta do is sit still. Sit still! Eh. I don't think I got him. I think I just bitch slapped him. I need to bring Jake into it. How does this happen to me? How could this happen to me? I've made my mistakes. I don't know the rest of the words. Okay, sorry. Anyway, back to why everyone's here. Frankenstein. Okay, sorry. One of the phenomena which had peculiarly attracted my attention was the structure of the human frame, and, indeed, any animal endued with life. Whence, I often asked myself, did the principle of life proceed? It was a bold question, and one which has never been considered as a mystery. Yet, with how many things we are upon the brink of becoming acquainted, if cowardice or carelessness did not restrain our inquiries. I revolved these circumstances in my mind and determined thenceforth to apply myself more particularly to those branches of natural philosophy which relate to physiology. Unless I had been animated by an almost supernatural enthusiasm, my application to this study would have been irksome and almost intolerable. To examine the causes of life, we must first have recourse to death. I became acquainted with the science of anatomy. But this was not sufficient. I must observe the natural decay and corruption of the human body. In my education, my father had taken the greatest precautions that my mind should be impressed with no supernatural horrors. I do not ever remember to have trembled at a tale of superstition or to have feared the apparition of a spirit. Darkness had no effect upon my fancy, and a churchyard was to me merely the receptacle of bodies deprived of life, which, from being the seat of beauty and strength, had become food for the worm. Now I was led to examine the cause and progress of the decay and forced to spend days and nights in vaults and charnel houses. My attention was fixed upon every object the most insupportable to the delicacy of the human feelings. I saw how the fine form of man was degraded and wasted. I beheld the corruption of death succeeded to the blooming cheek of life. I saw how the worm inherited the wonders of the eye and brain. I paused, examining and analyzing all the minutiae of causation, as exemplified in the change from life to death and death to life, until from the midst of this darkness a sudden light broke in upon me. A light so brilliant and wondrous, yet so simple, that while I became dizzy with the immensity of the prospect which it illustrated, I was surprised that among so many men of genius, who had directed their inquiries toward the same science, that I alone should be reserved to discover so astonishing a secret. Remember, I am not recording the vision of a madman. The sun does not certainly shine in the heavens, then that which I now affirm is true. Fucking fly. I will get you, you son of a bitch. I will get you. One of these times. You know what? Just leave. Just leave the room. Just leave the room. Free me of my suffering. I'm reading Frankenstein. Do you want to be an example? Do you want to be my... Do you want to be Frankenstein's monster? Because I will end you. And then I'll bring you back to life so my cat can chase you down. I'll take off your legs. Anyway. Ruben says, Frankenstein be freaky with it. I must watch the decay of the body. It's so ironic that they can fly but stay as long as possible close to... Right? God. I want to see... no, I'm gonna have to wait until after stream to watch that clip. That's probably a really good clip. Thank you, Hodakin, for getting that. Are you talking to your alter ego? I'm talking to Twitch chat. I made a clip too, but forgot to copy the link. Oh no, it's okay. It's possible to pull up the clips on the channel, and they take at least years of their life just to bother you. On God. Let me clear out some of these things. Okay. And like, I don't even know where he went. So I have no idea if the fly has finally freed me of my suffering, or if I must suffer. Okay. I continue my suffering, but, you know, of my own volition. I don't remember where I left off. Steph, you exist beyond the concept of time. I do? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Yep, there we go. Pose got it.
Are you sure about that?
Thank you. I am indeed not sure about that. Okay. I continue reading. Remember, I am not recording the vision of a madman. The sun does not more certainly shine in the heavens than that which I now affirm is true. Some miracle might have produced it, yet the stages of the discovery were distinct and probable. After days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, I succeeded in discovering the cause of generation and life, nay, more. I became myself capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. The astonishment which I had at first experienced on this discovery soon gave place to delight and rapture. After so much time spent in painful labor, to arrive at once at the summit of my desires was the most gratifying consummation of my toils. But this discovery was so great and overwhelming that all the steps by which I had been progressively led to it were obliterated, and I beheld only the result. What had been the study and desire of the wisest men since the creation of the world was now within my grasp. Not that, like a magic scene, it all opened upon me at once. The information I had obtained was of a nature rather to direct my endeavors so soon as I should point them towards the object of my search than to exhibit that object already accomplished. I was like the Arabian who had buried with the dead and found a passage to life, aided only by one glimmering and seemingly ineffectual light. I see by your eagerness and the wonder and hope which your eyes express, my friend, that you expect to be informed of the secret which I am acquainted. That cannot be. Listen patiently until the end of my story, and you will easily perceive why I am reserved upon the subject. I will not lead you on, unguarded and ardent as I then was, to your destruction and infallible misery. Learn from me, if not by my precepts, at least by my example, how dangerous is the acquirement of knowledge, and how much happier that man is who believes his native town to be the world, than he who aspires to become greater than his nature will allow. When I found so astonishing a power placed within my hands, I hesitated a long time concerning the matter in which I should employ it. Although I possess the capacity of bestowing animation, yet to prepare a frame for the reception of it, with all its intricacies of fibers, muscles, and veins, still remained a work of inconceivable difficulty and labor. I doubted at first whether I should attempt the creation of a being like myself, or one of simpler organization. But my imagination was too much exalted by my first success to permit me to doubt of my ability to give life to an animal as complex and wonderful as man. The materials at present within my command hardly appeared adequate to so arduous an undertaking. But I doubted not that I should ultimately succeed. I prepared myself for a multitude of reverses. My operations might be incessantly baffled, and at last my work be imperfect. Yet when I considered the improvement which every day takes place in science and mechanics, I was encouraged to hope my present attempts would at least lay the foundations of future success. Nor could I consider the multitude and complexity of my plan as any argument of its impracticality. It was with these feelings that I began the creation of a human being, as the minuteness of the parts formed a great hindrance to my speed. I resolved, contrary to my first intention, to make the being of a gigantic stature, that is to say, about 8 feet in height and proportionally large. After having formed this determination and having spent some months in successfully collecting and arranging my materials, I began. No one can conceive the variety of feelings which bore me onwards, like a hurricane in the first enthusiasm of success. Life and death appeared to me ideal bounds, which I should break through, and pour a torrent of light into our dark world. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs. Pursuing these reflections, I thought that I could bestow animation upon lifeless matter. I might, in process time, although I now found it impossible, renew life where death had apparently devoted the body to corruption. These thoughts supported my spirits, while I pursued my undertaking with unremitting ardor. My cheek had grown pale with study, and my person had become emaciated with confinement. Sometimes on the very brink of certainty I failed, yet still I clung to the hope which the next day or the next hour might realize. One secret which I alone possessed was the hope to which I had dedicated myself. and the moon gazed on my midnight labors while, with unrelaxed and breathless eagerness, I pursued nature to her hiding places. Who shall conceive the horrors of my secret toil as I dabbled among the unhallowed damps of the grave or tortured the living animal to animate the lifeless clay? My limbs now tremble and my eyes swim with the remembrance. But then a resistless and almost frantic impulse urged me forward. I seemed to have lost all soul or sensation, but for this one pursuit. It was indeed but a passing trance that only made me feel with renewed acuteness so soon as, the unnatural stimulus ceasing to operate, I had returned to my old habits. I collected bones from charnel houses and disturbed with profane fingers the tremendous secrets of the human frame. In a solitary chamber, or rather cell, at the top of the house, and separated from all the other apartments by a gallery and staircase, I kept my workshop of filthy creation. My eyeballs were starting from their sockets in attending to the details of my employment. The dissecting room and the slaughterhouse furnished many of my materials, and often did my human nature turn with loathing from my occupation, whilst, still urged on by an eagerness which perpetually increased, I brought my work near to a conclusion. Do I not get a high? Yes, you absolutely do. I've been reading. Thank you, Riley, so much for the crystal roses. What's the difference between the regular rose? I guess just that they're blue and they're different. Thank you, Riley. What did you say, Ruben? Frankenstein is rather creepier than pop culture. Yes, it was intended to be a horror, wasn't it? Riley, I hope that you've been doing well. You haven't been working too much, have you? Hi, Melody. It's good to see you. Did I update the puzzle? Yes, I did. Okay. I think now, if the fly is gone, I can put this back in place. Because I can tell the difference in the audio quality. What's up, Riley? The dissecting room and the slaughterhouse furnished many of my materials, and often did my human nature turn with loathing from my occupation, whilst, still urged on by an eagerness which perpetually increased, I brought my work near to a conclusion. The summer months passed while I was thus engaged heart and soul in one pursuit. It was the most beautiful season. Never did the fields bestow a more plentiful harvest, or the vines yield a more luxuriant vintage. But my eyes were insensible to the charms of nature, and the same feelings which made me neglect the scenes around me caused me also to forget those friends who were so many miles absent, and whom I had not seen for so long a time. I knew my silence disquieted them, and I well remembered the words of my father. I know that while you are pleased with yourself, you will think of us with affection, and we shall hear regularly from you. You must pardon me if I regard any interruption in your correspondence as a proof that your other duties are equally neglected. I knew well, therefore, what would be my father's feelings, but I could not tear my thoughts from my employment, loathsome in itself, but which had taken an irresistible hold of my imagination. I wished, as it were, to procrastinate all that related to my feelings of affection until that great object, which swallowed up every habit of my nature, should be completed. I then thought that my father would be unjust if he ascribed my neglect to vice or faultiness on my part, but I am now convinced that he was justified in conceiving that I should not be altogether free from blame. A human being in perfection ought always to preserve a calm and peaceful mind and never allow passion or transitory desire to disturb his tranquility. I do not think that the pursuit of knowledge is an exception to this rule. If the study to which you apply yourself has a tendency to weaken your affections and to destroy your taste for those simple pleasures in which no alloy can possibly mix, then that study is certainly unlawful. That is to say, not befitting the human mind. If this rule were always observed, if no man allowed any pursuit whatsoever to interfere with the tranquility of his domestic affections, Greece had not been enslaved, Caesar would have spared his country, America would have been discovered more gradually, and the empires of Mexico and Peru had not been destroyed. But I forget that I am moralizing in the most interesting part of my tale, and your looks remind me to proceed. My father made no reproach in his letters, and only took notice of my silence by inquiring into my occupations more particularly than before. Winter, spring, and summer passed away during my labors, but I did not watch the blossom or the expanding leaves, sights which before always yielded me supreme delight. So deeply was I engrossed in my occupation. The leaves of that year had withered before my work drew near to a close, and now every day showed me more plainly how well I had succeeded. But my enthusiasm was checked by my anxiety, and I appeared rather like one doomed by slavery to toil in the mines, or any other unwholesome trade, than an artist occupied by his favorite employment. Every night I was oppressed by a slow fever, and I became nervous to a most painful degree. The fall of a leaf startled me, and I shunned my fellow creatures as if I had been guilty of a crime. Sometimes I grew alarmed at the wreck I perceived that I had become. The energy of my purpose alone sustained me. My labors would soon end, and I believed that exercise and amusement would then drive away incipient disease, and I promised myself both of these when my creation should be complete. Chapter 5. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m, the rain pattering dismally around the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe, or how delineate the wretch whom with such infinite pains and care I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful. Great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness, but these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast to his watery eyes. It seemed almost of the same color as the dun white sockets in which they were set. His shriveled complexion and straight black lips. The different accidents of life are not so changeable as the feelings of human nature. I had worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. For this I had deprived myself of rest and health. I had desired it with an ardor that far exceeded moderation. But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. Unable to endure the aspect of the being I had created, I rushed out of the room and continued a long time traversing my bedchamber, unable to compose my mind to sleep. At length, lassitude succeeded to the tumult I had before endured.
Ruad! Hello! We have a raid, my dear fishies. Please, let's welcome our raiders. Hello. If you guys don't know Ruad, please give them a follow. They read, and I like their readings, and you should check them out. They are a delight to listen to. Hello! Welcome, raiders. If you don't know me, my name is Steph, and I read books and stories on stream. We are actively reading Frankenstein. I am struggling through it, but we are reading Frankenstein. How was your stream? What did you get up to today? And thank you so much for joining me. If you or any of the raiders need to take a step away to get some water, get some food, go to sleep, do what it is that you need to do, I appreciate you so much for joining along on the raid, and I'm sure Ruad appreciates it as well. First reading stream in a while, actually. You were doing Irish myth reading. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the VOD. You put the VODs on YouTube, or do you edit the VODs before you put them on YouTube? Because I've seen your YouTube posts, and most of the time I can't catch streams, so I'll normally just listen to the YouTube videos. Oh, he does stream to YouTube. Okay, so then I can just look at the VODs on YouTube. That's even better. I appreciate that YouTube does that. Twitch kind of missed that opportunity. Well, that's great. I hope that you had an amazing stream, and if you do need to step away, if you need to raid and run, totally fine, I get it. Please get the rest that you need. But thank you so much for sharing your community with me. I hope that, albeit
I actually forgot to stream to YouTube for this stream. Oh, well, the thought was there. Hopefully I can check the Twitch VOD then, because that sounds really cool. I don't know a whole lot about Irish myths. We are currently at the beginning of chapter 5, in which our narrator, our main character, has just brought a creature to life. And now they're walking around their bedroom like unable to sleep. So let's jump right back into it. Keep the vibes, you know? At length, lassitude succeeded to the tumult I had before endured, and I threw myself on the bed in my clothes, endeavoring to seek a few moments of forgetfulness. But it was in vain. I slept, indeed, but I was disturbed by the wildest dreams. I thought I saw Elizabeth, in the bloom of health, walking in the streets of Ingolstadt. Delighted and surprised, I embraced her, but as I imprinted the first kiss on her lips, they became livid with the hue of death. Her features appeared to change, and I thought that I held the corpse of my dead mother in my arms. A shroud enveloped her form, and I saw the grave worms crawling in the folds of the flannel. I started from my sleep with horror. Cold dew covered my forehead. My teeth chattered. Every limb became convulsed. When, by the dim and yellow light of the moon, as it forced its way through the window shutters, I beheld the wretched, the miserable monster whom I had created. He held up the curtain of the bed, and his eyes, if eyes they may be called, were fixed on me. His jaws open, and he muttered some inarticulate sounds, while a grin wrinkled his cheeks. He might have spoken, but I did not hear. One hand was stretched out, seemingly to detain me, but I escaped and rushed downstairs. I took refuge in the courtyard belonging to the house which I inhabited, where I remained during the rest of the night, walking up and down in the greatest agitation, listening attentively, catching and fearing each sound as if it were to announce the approach of the demoniacal corpse to which I had so miserably given life. Oh, no mortal could support the horror of that countenance. A mummy, again endued with animation, could not be so hideous as that wretch. I had gazed on him while unfinished. He was ugly then, but when those muscles and joints were rendered incapable of motion, it became a thing such as even Dante could not have conceived. I passed the night wretchedly. Sometimes my pulse beat so quickly and hardly that I felt the palpitation of every artery. At others, I nearly sank to the ground through languor and extreme weakness. Mingled with this horror, I felt the bitterness of disappointment. Dreams that had been my food and pleasant rest for so long a space were now become a hell to me. And the change was so rapid, the overthrow so complete. Morning, dismal and wet, at length dawned and discovered to my sleepless and aching eyes the church of Ingolstadt. Its white steeple and clock, which indicated the 6th hour. The porter opened the gates of the court. which had that night been my asylum, and I issued into the streets, pacing them with quick steps as if I sought to avoid the wretch whom I feared every turning of the street would present to my view. I did not dare return to the apartment which I inhabited, but felt impelled to hurry on, although drenched by the rain which poured from a black and comfortless sky. I continued walking in this manner for some time, endeavoring by bodily exercise to ease the load that weighed upon my mind. I traversed the streets without any clear conception of where I was or what I was doing. My heart palpitated in sickness of fear, and I hurried on with irregular steps, not daring to look about me. Like one who, on a lonely road, doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned round, walks on, and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. Continuing thus, I came at length opposite to the inn at which the various diligences and carriages usually stop. Here I paused. I knew not why, but I remained some minutes with my eyes fixed on a coach that was coming towards me from the other end of the street. As it drew nearer, I observed that it was the Swiss diligence. It stopped just where I was standing, and on the door being opened, I perceived Henry Clerval, who, on seeing me, instantly sprung out. "My dear Frankenstein," exclaimed he, "how glad I am to see you! How fortunate that you should be here at the very moment of my alighting!" Nothing could equal my delight on seeing Clerval. His presence brought back my thoughts, my father, Elizabeth, and all those scenes of home so dear to my recollection. I grasped his hand, and in a moment forgot my horror and misfortune. I felt suddenly, and for the first time during many months, calm and serene joy. I welcomed my friend, therefore. In the most cordial manner, we walked towards my college. Clerval continued talking for some time about our mutual friends and his own good fortune in being permitted to come to Ingolstadt. "You may easily believe," said he, "how great was the difficulty to persuade my father that all necessary knowledge was not comprised in the noble art of bookkeeping. And, indeed, I believe I left him incredulous to the last, for his constant answer to my unwearied entreaties was the same as that of the Dutch schoolmaster and the vicar of Wakefield. I have 10,000 florins a year without Greek. I eat heartily without Greek. But his affection for me at length overcame his dislike of learning, and he has permitted me to undertake a voyage of discovery to the land of knowledge. It gives me the greatest delight to see you, but tell me how you left my father, my brothers, and Elizabeth." "Very well, and very happy. Only a little uneasy that they hear from you so seldom. By the by, I mean to lecture you a little upon their account myself. But my dear Frankenstein," continued he, stopping short and gazing full in my face, "I did not before remark how very ill you appear. So thin and pale. You look as if you've been watching for several nights." "You have guessed right. I have lately been so deeply engaged in one occupation that I have not allowed myself sufficient rest, as you see. But I sincerely hope, that all these employments are now at an end, and that I am at length free." I trembled excessively. I could not endure to think of, and far less allude to, the occurrences of my preceding night. I walked with a quick pace, and we soon arrived at my college. I then reflected, and thought made me shiver, that the creature whom I had left in my apartment might still be there, alive and walking about. I dreaded to behold this monster. but I feared still more that Henry should see him. Entreating him, therefore, to remain a few minutes at the bottom of the stairs, I darted up towards my room. My hand was already on the lock of the door before I recollected myself. I then paused, and a cold shivering came over me. I threw the door forcibly open, as children are accustomed to do when they expect a specter to stand in waiting for them on the other side. But nothing happened. Nothing appeared. I stepped fearfully in. The apartment was empty, and my bedroom was also freed from its hideous guest. I could hardly believe that so great a good fortune could have befallen me. But when I became assured that my enemy had indeed fled, I clapped my hands for joy and ran down to Clerval. We ascended to my room, and the servant presently brought breakfast. But I was unable to contain myself. I was not only joy. It was not joy only that possessed me. I felt my flesh tingle with excess of sensitiveness, and my pulse beat rapidly. I was unable to remain for a single instant in the same place. I jumped over the chairs, clapped my hands, and laughed aloud. Clerval at first attributed my unusual spirits to joy on his arrival, but when he observed me more attentively, he saw a wildness in my eyes for which he could not account, and my loud, unrestrained, heartless laughter frightened and astonished him. "My dear Victor," cried he, "what, for God's sake, is the matter? Do not laugh in that manner. How ill you are! What is the cause of all this?" "Do not ask me," cried I, putting my hands before my eyes, for I thought I saw the dreaded spectre glide into the room. "He can tell. Oh, save me! Save me!" I imagined that the monster seized me. I struggled furiously and fell down in a fit. Poor Clerval! What must have been his feelings? A meeting which he anticipated with such joy so strangely turned to bitterness. But I was not the witness of his grief, for I was lifeless and did not recover my senses for a long, long time. This was the commencement of a nervous fever which confined me for several months. During all that time, Henry was my only nurse. I afterwards learned that, knowing my father's advanced age and unfitness for so long a journey, and how wretched my sickness would make Elizabeth, he spared them this grief by concealing the extent of my disorder. He knew that I could not have a more kind and attentive nurse than himself, and, firm in the hope he felt of my recovery, he did not doubt that, instead of doing harm, he performed the kindest action that he could towards them. But I was in reality very ill, and surely nothing but the unbounded and unremitting attentions of my friend could have restored me to life. The form of the monster on whom I had bestowed existence was forever before my eyes, and I raved incessantly concerning him. Doubtless my words surprised Henry. He at first believed them to be the wanderings of my disturbed imagination, but the pertinency with which I continually recurred to the same subject persuaded him that my disorder indeed owed its origin to some uncommon and terrible event. By very slow degrees, with the frequent relapses that alarmed and grieved my friend, I recovered. I remember the first time I became capable of observing outward objects with any kind of pleasure. I perceived that the fallen leaves had disappeared, and that the young buds were shooting forth from the trees that shaded my window. It was a divine spring, and the season contributed greatly to my convalescence. I felt also sentiments of joy and affection revive in my bosom. My gloom disappeared, and in short time I became as cheerful as before I was attacked by the fatal passion. Dearest Clerval, exclaimed I, how kind, how very good you are to me. This whole winter, instead of being spent in study, as you promised yourself, has been consumed in my sick room. How shall I ever repay you? I feel the greatest remorse for the disappointment of which I have been the occasion, and you will forgive me. You will repay me entirely if you do not discompose yourself. But get well as fast as you can, and since you appear in good spirits, I may speak to you on one subject, may I not? I trembled. One subject. What could it be? Could he allude to an object on whom I dare not even think? Compose yourself, said Clerval, who observed my change in color. I will not mention it if it agitates you, but your father and cousin would be very happy if they received a letter from you in your own handwriting. They hardly know how ill you've been and are uneasy at your silence. Is that all, my dear Henry? How could you suppose that my first thought would not fly towards those dear, dear friends, whom I love and who are so deserving of my love? If this is your present temper, my friend, you will perhaps be glad to see a letter that has been lying here for some days for you. It is from your cousin, I believe. Okay. We did it. We did it, fishies. Whew. We have finished chapter 5. Big stretchies. Hi, Dewey. I hope you had a good nap earlier. What is my hand doing? I'm still amazed by how creepy it is. I am amazed at my struggling to read today. Where are you? Where am I? Where are you? Where am I from? Earth. I am from the United States. Let's see. So we were able to get through. Hi, Psyche. Welcome. Hi, Lone Wolf. So we were able to get through chapters 3, 4, 5. And the next time we'll pick up on 6. How is your day? My day is lovely. Okay, so Frankenstein has 24 chapters. So far, it has taken us 2 hours to read letter 1, 2, 3, 4, and chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It certainly isn't helpful that, we had a fly interrupt and there's big words that I don't know. You're reading horror novels? We're reading Frankenstein. But if you have been here before, you know what time it is. If you're new here, this is the part where we say good night. I'm sorry, Gam.
I have to reject your redemption of siren singing, and I give you your points back. I do have to end stream. Let me see what we can do. Okay. Oh, hey, here's... Ooh! That was a surprise in my ear. Okay, so we're gonna raid into someone who I have not been to before. It says that they are doing ASMR. I don't know what kind of ASMR they do. So this will just kind of be like a first time joining. Why not? Have funsies. Always been so curious how they came up with the movie design of the monster that's so far removed. That is interesting, yes. Okay, but anyway, sorry, I got distracted by trying to find someone to raid. This is the part where we say our good nights, our goodbyes, and our see you tomorrows. I will be back again tomorrow night for more of reading. We will actually be reading The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. We will be continuing that. If you are watching on Twitch, we are going to raid out. Again, we are raiding someone that I have not encountered before. I have not met them before. So please do behave yourself and represent this community well. If you are not watching on Twitch, this stream is just going to end for you. However, I highly recommend, no matter what platform you're on, to join the Discord server. If you are on TikTok, go to the profile, click the link that is there, and you will see a link on that webpage that will take you to the Discord server. If you are on Twitch, the Discord link is available in the About section and the panels. !raid, copy the raid message and send it in the chat if you so wish. However, it does look like this person has followers only chat on. As with any person that you watch on any platform, you are not obligated to follow. But the nature of, raiding and supporting another creator is the same. Thank you so much for listening to my streams and my talking and my reading. I will be back again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. Until then, hi Pyro. Until then, drink your water, eat your food, touch some grass, hug your friends and your loved ones and tell them you appreciate them because life is fragile. And I will see you tomorrow.